Please welcome President and Chief Executive Officer of Move Detroit, Hilary, Chief Executive Officer, Bedrock, Jared Fleisher, Chief Executive Officer of Gardner White, Rachel Stewart. And to moderate the conversation, please welcome Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of 1642 Ventures, Dennis Archer Jr.
It's a deep chair.
Good afternoon
Chairs make you feel
to everyone.
Oh, I know.
And you know, this is obviously kind of a DG effect. I think that if Dan were here, we probably would have more people in the room, but that's okay.
Yeah, you know.
He gets a pass. But
No.
good afternoon
Well, we're
and
happy
welcome.
everyone's here.
Yes,
Come on,
absolutely.
Yeah, we're all. Yeah.
Our session is called Growing Detroit, Growing Michigan. However, the overarching theme is that our house is on fire and WTF. And I think that framing matters here because Detroit's trajectory and Michigan's trajectory are very deeply connected, as they always have been. For a long time, we've talked about growth in silos. We've talked about economic development, education over here, transportation over here, and affordable housing over here. And only when we're talking about all of those things at once collectively, in my opinion, will we actually be able to attract more people sustainably to the state. So today we're going to discuss, in the 30 minutes we have with you, how do we turn Detroit's momentum, which third year in a row in growth, 5,000 additional residents this last year, into statewide growth, something that Hilary is very passionate about. And how do we do it in a way that is coordinated, inclusive, and globally competitive, not just in the Midwest. Our panelists, who you all know, Hilary, you've been leading the work around talent attraction and civic identity and how Detroit competes for people and opportunity, as well as how the state does the same. Jay, you're clearly one of the central players in reshaping downtown Detroit and thinking about the future of urban development, density, and placemaking, and also playing a similar role in Cleveland. And Rachel, you and your family represent a deep business history rooted not just in Detroit, but throughout Michigan. So thank you all for being here. How many of you all were here for Cornell West? Okay, absolutely. So Cornell West weaved kind of seamlessly, and Devin was able to do it with him because Devin's a recording artist himself and a performer, music. So before we get into the meat of things, I'm going to ask each of you, what song defines your mood on Mackinac this week? Hilary.
Well, I stayed at the Chippewa Hotel.
Uh-oh.
If anyone knows it, it's the Pink Pony. So I think Pink Pony Club's the only right answer. But as it relates to all the policy and things, I think the only thing I could think of was "Fight for Your Right to Party."
There we go.
I feel like we have
There
a lot
we
of
go.
work to do and a lot of goodness on the other side.
Jay?
For me, it's Olivia Rodrigo's new song, The Cure, okay? Because we're going to fix this shit. My boy Gabe likes The Cure, although if you actually listen to the song, it's a much more complex meditation on love. But we'll keep it superficial about The Cure, because we're going to fix this shit.
There you go.
Rachel.
Can I do two? The pessimistic version is Free Falling, and the optimistic version is Learning to Fly by Tom Petty.
We're going to go with the optimistic version.
We're going
Okay, I'll go with that.
optimistic.
Roll with that.
I would go with Biggie
Depends
Smalls.
on the time of day, you know?
I would go with Biggie Smalls' One More Chance, because
There
we
you
got
go.
one more chance to
That's
do
good.
this
There
shit
you go.
right.
I like it.
So it's very interesting. So, as we sit here, Hilary, and we talk about being more competitive and attracting people to the state, attracting people to Detroit, and keeping people, graduates from our universities from leaving. And then we also are saying our house is on fire. And it's interesting because, from an analogy, if we had, Jared, a skyscraper apartment building that was on fire with smoke bellowing, you could see it for miles, but we're telling people to come move in at the same time. That's kind of what we're doing here. So Hilary, in that vein, what is Detroit, in your opinion, getting right now? And then where might we have a credibility gap in what we need to fix to be truly competitive?
Well, first to speak to the question, I'd say that part of that house is on fire analogy, the sort of long-term population stagnation is the gasoline, right? Like that's part of the challenge. The real existential challenge and pain that communities across the state have felt is in part, right? Because we haven't been as successful as we want to be, keeping our young folks, connecting our people to opportunity, inviting others to come and join us. And so it's part of the antidote. It's the bucket of water.
Right.
And so I think this is critically important work right now for all the reasons that were stated throughout the conference. And to be successful at it, you got to address them. You got to address, median income growth and economic opportunity and education. That's why it's such a good metric, because it's an appropriately high bar. In terms of what we're getting right, though, I think, a lot. That's why we're seeing momentum. Folks have told us, we've talked to over 20,000 folks across the state what they're looking for. They want, amenity-rich, walkable communities more and more. We're seeing, the investments of thousands and thousands of Detroiters, paying off and driving exactly that. Folks want economic opportunities, and we have this fast-growing startup ecosystem among other fast-growing industries. We're leading the nation in clean energy jobs. I could go on, right? None of that's guaranteed, but all of it is a good sign. Really the analogy I use is, right, that the arrow on our GPS was pointed the wrong direction for a long time, and it's pointed the right direction now, but that doesn't mean you arrived at your destination. We're at the beginning, and we have a lot of work to do. And we also have a ton of momentum and reason to believe. So when we talk to folks, I don't think there's a credibility gap. I think there's people for whom Michigan and Detroit are perfect right now. And there's a bigger and bigger and bigger market the more work we do to continue allowing folks to invest in our places and keep making them better and better places to call home.
So just continue on that for a second. So,
Yeah.
You came from a high-paced entrepreneurial tech space on the West Coast to become the state's first chief growth officer, which was amazing, I think, from the governor's standpoint to have that vision to create that position and to tap you for that position. Talk about how you're leveraging your experience in entrepreneurship, your time at the state, and talk a little bit about what you are doing now with your entities.
Yeah. Well, nobody had really taken this work on in this way, right, until this office was established at the state level a few years ago. And frankly, as it relates to Move Detroit, which is the new initiative that was launched recently to make sure we're doing what it takes to retain Detroiters and invite folks to return or come back and come and join us. No entity like this has existed with this mission either, right? First city in the nation to have people at the center with this population growth metric and a holistic effort to solve it. So inherently, that's an entrepreneurial endeavor, right? There's no book, there's no guideline on how to get this done. But we've got some sense of it now, having talked to lots of folks. People make decisions about where they're going to live holistically. You need to check a lot of boxes. You need economic opportunity, you need great schools, you need great places, good storytelling. And so in order to be successful at this stuff, I think first you got to talk to people. The wisdom's in the community. They'll tell you what they love and what's between them and building their future there, and then you better believe them and act on it. Let them be the storytellers, let them lead the way. That's the main thing that I think we've learned that's been successful. And so far, we're doing exactly that. I'll give you two quick things. We launched alongside the mayor, Move Detroit, but also our first program, Make Detroit Home. It's born out of the lessons we learned statewide with Make My Home and 50 other programs across the country. Some worked, some didn't. We put the best parts into this. And we thought, hey, we'll do 313 people in this first cohort, learn from it, right? And then go do another one. 3 weeks, we had 5,000 applications. A couple weeks later, we're about 6,000 applications. And we're seeing where folks from across the country are applying from not $1 spent on paid marketing. So these are Detroiters sharing with their friends, their family across the country. We're learning an incredible amount. That's an inherently entrepreneurial act, right?
Absolutely.
And then we're going to iterate and keep going and do better and better.
So, Jared, people talk about placemaking a lot. And, as we are bringing in, trying to retain younger people, attract younger people, I know as an employer, the questions I would have been asking when I was entering the workforce was about, wage. I probably wasn't even thinking about benefits. It was about the dough. The wage, how do I get a bonus? How do I, make the money? Not health benefits at that age in my 20s. But it's changed tremendously now. Work-life balance, what is the business doing for the community? Obviously, can I work from home? And part of that community portion is place. And Bedrock from day one, when buildings started being acquired downtown, there was investment alongside the buildings, oftentimes not even on your properties, but on public properties, improving space and place. Talk about how important that is to attracting and maintaining talent.
We think it is central. So what I learned from Dan Gilbert is that you have to think of a city and our state as a product. We are competing and we have to sell it. And if you look at how we're doing with losing population, people are not buying our product, okay? You want to sell a product, you should know your customer and give them what they want, okay? So more than anything, we need mobile, educated, young people to move into this state. What do they want? They want a vibrant urban environment, okay? They want a density of bars, restaurants, public spaces, entertainment, things to do. They want a vibrant urban environment. And our fundamental thesis is that you start with place. Place attracts talent. Talent attracts business. And in particular, the high-wage business, that is how you grow your median income. So Dennis, I didn't want to let you down, brother, so I did some homework. I came prepared.
I love
little note cards with statistics, okay? So I'm going to rattle off some statistics, my man. Okay, Nashville, all right? 20 years ago, Nashville was just a, little country music hub. It wasn't no tech hub, anything like that. It became a cool place that talented young people wanted to be, right? It became hip, it became a destination. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the Nashville region, okay? Since 2000, its population is up 80%, okay? Its median income in the last decade is up 50%, okay? Since 1990, its per capita income is up 234%. In the last 6 years, its tech jobs are up 30%, okay? They didn't start with some tech ecosystem. It wasn't, Silicon Valley there. I make this joke before, all the silicon there was in something else in Nashville, okay? All right, little Dolly Parton joke, okay? It always gets a good laugh, okay? Place. Talented young people wanted to be there. They also had relative affordability. And then you got Amazon and Microsoft and Starbucks following talent.
Yeah, it's very interesting because, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but, I started hearing years ago about how people were starting to have bachelor and bachelorette parties in Nashville. And I was like, when the hell did that happen? It was like Vegas.
100%.
And then it became Miami, and then it's like it skipped to Nashville. But it makes complete sense because those trips led to, wow, it's cool, I'm going to move here. And then business followed the talent.
I had my bachelor party in Nashville for my failed first marriage. It was, so it's no guarantee of success, but a great city.
I'm assuming you didn't take Amanda there.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Let's keep going. Okay, Austin. Austin is a juggernaut, right? But let me tell you something. 10, 15 years ago, it wasn't no juggernaut, okay? It started with place. People wanted to be there for the live music, the culture, the bars, the restaurants, the natural environment. It became a place young people wanted to be. Their population since 1990 has doubled from 465,000 to over 1 million people. In the last 20 years, they added 720,000 jobs. Their median income is up 75%, okay? So yes, our house is on fire, but the thing is, it doesn't take 100 years to put the fire out, okay? In a decade, 2 decades, these places transformed not just their population, but their income, because they attracted the educated talent that drives the high-wage economy. We can do that. So let me bring this home real quick. Our friends in Grand Rapids, I'm a big booster of Grand Rapids, okay? Last couple of decades, Michigan lost 57,000 people between 25 and 34 years old. That's our economic ballgame, okay? Michigan lost 57,000. Grand Rapids gained 20,000, okay? They grew their population by about 18%. Why? Because Grand Rapids is a place that talented young people want to be. It's a great city, okay? It's got a great and increasingly great waterfront, vibrant downtown, bars, restaurants, got natural environment around it, okay? Detroit, since Dan came down, the last time Detroit grew was 1957, and there's a lot of variables behind Detroit's growth. But I went census tract by census tract in the greater downtown, where we've concentrated our investments and built, incredibly vibrant urban core. By the way, Gensler just did a their downtown report with this measure of stickiness, which said, you know, not just going downtown, but how much time do you spend downtown? How much does downtown mean in the community? Detroit was number one. Number one. Okay, you can look it up, just happened. And so in downtown Detroit, in those census tracts, we added 10,000 people in the last decade, okay? If we build vibrant urban environments in Kalamazoo, in Pontiac, in Detroit, in Grand Rapids, we can grow our population, we can attract talented young people bring high-wage jobs, and all these things. Our house is on fire, our population's 49th, our median income is 40th. These places in 2 decades not just turned it around, you know, 100% increase in median income. We can do it, but it starts with place.
So,
One
Rachel,
question, Dennis, before we go there.
Please.
So Jared just offered three really sexy examples of cities. But there's also really non-sexy examples.
Columbus.
Of cities. Whoa. That's sexy by comparison to
It's
the
sexy,
one I'm
oh,
about
for
to give you,
sure.
Tulsa.
Yeah.
Tulsa is growing. Hilary, can you tell us how? Because this is a coherent policy story, not a sexy city story, I would argue.
Yeah, I mean, Tulsa did a great job around taking advantage of the remote worker, opportunity. But more than that, people think it's because they were paying folks to move. They do have a great benefactor, has contributed a lot to that. More than that, though, they invested in the back end on the community portion, somewhat to Jared's point about placemaking. There are other places that have done those pay-to-move strategies. It's usually not the cash. It's whether you can get people situated in a place that they love, surrounded by, folks that they can get connected to, build real roots. Locally, Tulsa's done a great job at that. But I would say, just as a percentage, you mentioned some of the growth in Detroit. You got to start from somewhere, right? As a percentage, the growth that was just reported in Detroit, faster than growth in any other city in the Midwest, faster than growth in the whole entire Northeast. You know what I mean? We're really, momentum is on the right side, truly. That arrow is pointed in the right direction. So to your point, if you can make these investments, I think what it should say to us is that there's reason to keep going. Right. When we do things, it works. Action matters. We're taking action. We're seeing real results. And just like, in the Tulsa case and other cases, they took an incisive action. They decided this is the swing that we're going to take and committed to it, didn't change their mind, weren't fickle. I think if we do the same thing, that's one of the things I'm proud of with Move Detroit. The structure is such in this public-private partnership, it can last. Mm-hmm. If we lean in and, with sharp elbows, you really can see the results over the long term. I believe that.
So, Rachel, I know, let's take it out from Detroit a little bit. You're very passionate about us partnering better with the western part and other parts of the state. You're equally passionate about embracing partnerships and relationships with our university communities. Talk to us about that.
Sure. I mean, from where I sit, I think one of our biggest opportunities as a region and as a state is having more entry-level jobs. So if you look at a lot of the national firms, you go to Chicago, you go to New York, and then you stay. Even if you look at marketing, now these are approximate numbers, but 10 years ago, there were probably 15,000 entry-level marketing jobs. Now we're lucky if there's 5,000. And and why? Because a lot of the marketing agents, or a lot of our local businesses are now using marketing agencies that are on the coast or elsewhere. That's a real thing. But I also think there's some I'm hot on policy that makes sense, but I also think there's some really straightforward, easy things to do that work. So we've done a lot of sponsored research at universities, and I'll say CCS is the world's easiest institution to work with. And then you have a one-to-one relationship with a student, and if you want them, if you don't want them. But it makes it really easy to recruit, and I think there's a lot more opportunity there. I also think, I was thinking about this yesterday. We're pretty good at as a region and we as a company are pretty good at working with U of M, CCS, Wayne, MSU. We're not great at working throughout the region, and I think that's what we need to start thinking about. And I think something, Move Detroit could start to catalog sort of what are the opportunities throughout the region. Go to Purdue, go to Indiana, and then start to develop that pipeline and one-to-one relationship. It's going to make it a lot easier to attract students and then get them to stay. I will say, too, in placemaking, so I think I might put the job before the person coming, but I will say placemaking has been so important, so we've really professionalized our leadership team in the past 2 years, and we've recruited from Atlanta, from Florida, from New York, and in the past, Detroit wasn't a selling point. Now, we take them to a Detroit store, show them the Hudson building, and ta-da, they're moving in 2 seconds, and everyone's family is having a great time. I mean, can't overstate the importance.
I mean, I think we engage in a false dichotomy if we're arguing about do you need place or jobs and what comes first, the chicken or the egg. You know, when you're making the decision, you want to be a young, educated person wants to be in a vibrant place with a job.
Right.
Okay? The reason I focus on place is because I believe that we can achieve that. We can develop, we can build. I find it much more difficult to try to artificially or through government build an economy that doesn't exist today. Okay, what do I mean by that? You know, China has very aggressive industrial policy, so they can actually create an economy. I do not believe that government, you know, here in terms of public policies can say we're going to create a big tech economy in Detroit, and that's how we're going to have jobs. So what can you do to start that, you know, virtuous cycle? Place. I just do not believe you can manufacture a job economy. You can work with your comparative advantages. So in Detroit, you have your universities, and Rachel's passionate about that. You have your eds and meds and healthcare, and you can say, how can we support your growth? But I just don't believe that if you say, where can government and the private sector actually start this virtuous cycle? We can rebuild our communities, we can build vibrant communities. I think a lot more than we can say, you know, I want to get Amazon, you know, absent that, to come here, I want to build a tech economy. I just don't think it works like that.
So to move this common agenda forward, all of you are, and this is a compliment, but policy nerds. And so at a state level, what policies need to change in Lansing to help move these agendas forward?
Well, I'm going to give something self-serving, okay?
Shocker.
Shocking. But I'm also going to do something that's serving, you know, Grand Rapids. So we, in 2017, created the Transformational Brownfield Program, our coalition, okay? And again, it gets back to this thesis around place, starting that virtuous cycle. Since 2017, there have been, I think, 14 or 15 transformational brownfield plans approved across the state. Grand Rapids Riverfront, which is going to make that city and region a magnet for talent and growth for the next generation. From the factory yards, the abandoned factory that's now turning into a mixed-use district, to the new amphitheater that's making it a regional entertainment destination. That's how talent wants to have those amenities. The soccer stadium, the new towers, all the connecting parks and trails, all that is transformational brownfield. Okay, Kalamazoo, Pontiac, Southfield, Detroit, the future of health. I mean, so significant for our economy, the future of health. Eds and meds, the #1 source of job growth in our country is healthcare. Future of health is a transformational brownfield project. What we've done is transformational brownfield. The last time it passed, because the program kind of has a sunset and then they have to extend it, in 2023, there's 110 people in the House of Representatives. It passed with 91 votes. And yet we've been stuck for 2 years trying to get it reauthorized again. And there's projects across the state. But let me say this. If Michigan, it's hard for me to think that Michigan is serious about growth from a public policy standpoint when Dan Gilbert, who's one in a universe about his willingness to invest, is saying, I'm going to put $1 billion plus into turning our riverfront into the best waterfront destination in the country. Huge magnet for talent, growth, tourism. I'm going to put over $1 billion into it. Never make a penny on it. Never make a penny on it. I'm going to donate $1 billion. If you just give me a little bit of partnership for the new revenue we generate, I can plow it back into the project. And for 2 frickin' years, you can't get an answer. To donate $1 billion. So if Michigan is serious about growth, let somebody donate a fucking $1 billion to grow the fucking city and state.
Well said. Rachel? It's good this is not children programming. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry about PBS.
It's okay.
Yes.
I mean, come on, $1 billion deserves a an exclamation point. So I think 2 things. One, I think as an employer, there needs to be some incentive to spend so much time and money attracting talent to the state. You know, I'm talking about sending our people to, you know, throughout the region to recruit. It's a lot easier to go across the street. It's just, so I mean, I think something along the lines of a tax credit when you get someone to move here would make a lot of sense, and it need not be big money, and I don't think it would. I just think it'd be meaningful. And then it's really easy to give your HR person a bonus based on how many people they attracted. But then thing 2, we have a real issue with housing. So with all those people that we've talked about coming here, you know, first, I hate when we talk about affordability in Michigan. I don't think that's aspirational, that we have cheap housing. We want great housing in great places. So one, it might be true, but I wouldn't make that part one of the pitch. But point two, we really have, if not not an affordability issue, an availability issue, and we really need to unlock that if we're going to keep growing people. Because I can't tell you how many people have come here, and it's not even a money thing. It's an available thing, and they're going farther out and farther out and farther out, and that's just not desirable.
Yeah. I have a few. I'll try to be quick, but to quickly on your point about affordability, people are struggling. Affordability is critically important. We do need to talk about it, of course. But when we talk about retaining talent, especially our young people, and also inviting them to come back and join us, I think a real mistake that has been made is, hey, it's cheap here. Because that's scary. People are like,
or you're telling a 25-year-old it's great when you have kids. They're single. That's
Totally.
like not in the horizon, not the pitch.
It breeds like skepticism, right? When in reality, we're really underselling ourselves because it's also great. It's great. An undeniable culture. There's incredible history, but also real opportunity. And you can maybe afford a home, right? An ownership that isn't possible in the vast majority of the country. So I think it's all part of the story, but not the only thing, to your point. In terms of policy, go ahead. In terms of policy,
I'll be right here.
Quickly, in terms of policy, quickly, I'll give you a couple. One, there's been, we need to increase post-secondary attainment. We know that. A conversation that's being had right now that I think is a fruitful one is around retention scholarships. Functionally, for folks who are graduating from our Michigan universities, both those folks who grew up here in Michigan and we want to keep, but also folks from across the country who come here for our incredible universities who want to choose to stay. If they choose to graduate or graduate and choose to stay in state here in one of our 100,000 open jobs, they can get access to debt forgiveness for each year that they stay in state. And that's a really exciting proposition. I know that has a lot of interest and support across the state. Let's chatter about that. Happy to chat folks about it. I think that's a really cool proposition. And just to say, for whether it's that program or one like Make Detroit Home, where we're inviting folks to come home for relocation support and community benefits, one additional household in Michigan, if that costs you $1,000 in relocation support and some community programming, adds $190,000 every year to the economy, right? So it's the best ROI that you can make. People are all that we got, right? They're the foundation of our economy. So this is a hugely valuable program, whether that goes into forgiving student debt and keeping them here that way, or programs to encourage them to stay or return. And the last one, to your point on the economy, we can't make something from scratch, but we can support the people who are here. And we're a top 10 state for patents. We have an incredible number of new business starts. We have a fast-growing startup ecosystem. And as folks in the room know, we still see capital flight. When folks are about to hire their first 100 employees, they leave the state. That's the wrong moment. We want to keep them here so those jobs are available for the young people that are in our state already and for folks coming here. And so there's lots of, I think, important work we can do as a state to make sure we have more available capital for those folks. We're investing in our people right here. That's how you drive economic diversity, job density, and real economic opportunity alongside those place-based investments.
So Rachel, you are a job creator. You have lived abroad. You've had an amazing career, and you returned home to run the family business, and you've already made groundbreaking change within your enterprise. And a lot of that change is doubling or tripling down in the state. Mm-hmm. I think there have been some recent announcements about stores outside of Michigan. But with your knowledge and experience and the legacy of your brand, you could have decided to go elsewhere and plant a flag and grow in that community, but you are remaining focused in Michigan. Why?
Well, I mean, one practical issue is in our sector, the state's underserved. I mean, it really is. If there's a lot of competition at the low end, there's really nothing mid to high. So there's the practical reality. There's also the reality, I believe in this state. I really do. And I think, depressing as some of the stats are, it's got to go up. But I think it's a real reality, though, that I think there's a lot of conversations of, if you look at markets, we need to insulate ourselves because, we are still not as diverse as we need to be. Now, there's tons of opportunity, right? There's been a ton of talk about defense that makes all the sense in the world. Health technology, we punch above our weight class. I mean, there's a million things, and that's why I believe, well, we gotta dial up the speed here.
Yeah.
Yes, we do.
To all of you, is there one thing that we collectively need to stop doing? When you talk about being on common ground, is there something we should stop doing Rachel, that's
Sorry.
causing us to maybe stagnate?
Well, so in a short 6 months, we're opening 11 stores throughout the state in Northern Ohio. So we have seen a variety of what works and what doesn't. And I would say 80 to 90% of the local jurisdictions are spectacular to work with. You send one email, you're sitting down, they make everything work, they're excited to have you. But there's a 20% that are absolutely impossible. I mean, the goalpost keeps changing, that adds costs, you can't even, there's no one there. There's, in some cases, there's this hubris that exists that, there's nowhere else to go. There are. So, I mean, and there's things at this, and this is a local leadership issue, but there's things at the state level that you can do to encourage participation, facilitation, and it is desperately needed.
Well, I think I'm watching this timer here, and our time has expired. But I mean, I think it's pretty clear that you can't recruit talent without place, Jared. You can't grow population, Hilary, unless we have transit to connect our communities. And Rachel, we can't attract employers if the communities don't feel vibrant and inclusive. And so I think the message is quite clear. There's work to be done. We definitely need partnership in Lansing to achieve the work that you all are trying to do. And each of you are playing a very critical role in each of your lanes with this mission to grow and improve Michigan's economy. So I thank you all for being here, and thank you for all you do.
Thank you, Dennis.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Distinguished guests, theater programming will resume at 2:30 p.m. Please visit the Mackinac Policy